Hello and welcome back to new number ones for the week of April the 8th, 2026. My name is Corey. You're here with me now. And the pick of the week goes to Mad Cave Studios' Pretty Hate Machine number one, written by Ryan Onan and Tim Seeley with art by Paolo Armitano. Um, this is our second week in a row that Mad Cave Studios has been featured. This was actually a very difficult week for me to pick a new number one, which is really funny because the last few weeks have been kind of a struggle with some books that didn't really feel like they fit the bill that I ended up picking. This week was entirely different, so very lovely problem to have. So I had four strong choices, and this is the one that stuck out to me for a couple of reasons. One, I can't turn down a book that's named after a Nine Inch Nails album, for one. Two, had a very interesting premise. And three, had a writer, Tim Seeley, who's. It feels like there's not a week that goes by that Tim Seeley doesn't have a book that he's tied to coming out. Probably the busiest guy in comics these days, I would say. So, without much further ado, let's kind of get into it. So, again, the parameters that I look for what makes a good new number one is the world established? Is the main character established? And is there enough meat on the bone that makes me want to come back for issue number two? That being said, I do feel like this qualified of it. The story is basically about a young guy named Thomas whose father has died. He's drove off a bridge and he drowned, trapped in his car. Looks like it might have been a suicide situation. But as the story kind of unfolds in this number one, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. If I had to make a comparison, this book feels like it is a cross between Drop Dead Fred and Hamlet. Odd thing to say, I'm sure. And let me explain why. Because we are introduced to a demon by the name of Luther, who appears after three of Thomas's schoolmates stumble across the mutilated bodies of themselves, which is oddly very jarring for them to see, I imagine, telling them that they needed to bring Thomas to this spot. Um, Luther is a sharp-toothed, scarred individual with very ugly, brutal-looking knives coming out of his fingers. Not like an Edward Scissorhands knife, like scissors for fingers, but actual like knives splitting out of his fingers. Like you can see the fingers and the knives. Very gruesome looking. Very lovingly drawn as well. As you can tell from our panel here, it's a bit of a brutal book, and we love to see that because that was my big critique with Maid Cafe when I touched on it about a month ago. Was that if you're going to promise me gratuitous violence, I kind of need to see it up front. Like horror comics are not the same as like a mystery comic. This is sort of both, which is very lovely because Luther, when Thomas does arrive to meet him, informs Thomas that he encountered his father's soul in hell, and that it probably wasn't actually a suicide, but a murder perpetrated by his uncle, who we see in a panel being very cozy with his mother at his father's wake. So you can kind of see where the Hamlet comparison comes in there now as well. Luther is our drop dead Fred, imaginary friend kind of demon that nobody else can see except for Thomas for the most part. And also, we have the Hamlet connection because the very first scene in Hamlet, you find Horatio, who is Hamlet's friend, and some night guards stumbling across the ghost of Hamlet's father in a courtyard at night, prompting them to bring Hamlet to that same courtyard to see him, where he learns of a murder most foul. Sorry, I'm a very big Shakespeare person. Hamlet's like one of my favorite performances of all time. So I'm very this did something for me, in other words. So that being said, writing is fine for the most part. The teenage boys feel a little like teenage boys, maybe a little too over the top. There's a lot of like gay jokes in there where the kids are like trying to tease each other in the opening scene. That's a little. I don't know if kids are really that bad anymore. Additionally, there's kind of a clunky scene where an older woman is establishing that Thomas is someone who is a very creative, artistic mind and is going away to school, but she does it in a very kind of blunt way. And I appreciate that there's a trick. Peter David put out a book on how to write comics years ago that I'm a very big fan of. And in it, he said that sometimes you have to present information that is really clunky. And the best way to do it is just to acknowledge that it's clunky and move past it. And that's kind of what we got in this scene where we're at Thomas's father's wake and this older woman is congratulating Thomas on getting into this prestigious art school. And she's like, your life must be looking up. And he's like, yeah, I'm at my dad's my dad's wake. So it's like, yeah, it was clunky, but we had to get it out there that Thomas is someone who is bound for bigger and greater things. Now, of course, he does go out to the forest. He does meet Luther, who tells him this, and on his way back, he has another grisly encounter with Luther and a private investigator that's very brutal. Again, if you're gonna promise me violence, I need to see it up front, and this delivered on that for me. To kind of give you another quick look at that page here, here's Luther, um, having some fun there. There's also this really great recurring panel of blood or tears kind of hitting the ground with a plip sound. That happens a couple of times. I do like that repetition, establishing that like when that happens, Luther is nearby because it's sort of like the predecessor of it. So again, really well done. I have to say, this checked off a lot of boxes for me. We've established the world, we've established our hook, we've established our main character. He seems a little vague right now, but they were getting a lot done in this first issue, and I'm not going to hold that against the book right now. We know that Thomas is a creative person. We know that he is infatuated with it. He has a soft spot for this girl that her family doesn't want her to be with. Very Ophelia and Polonius as well, to keep the Hamlet motif going. Again, that's going to do a lot for me because there's a Hamlet thing going on, and I love Hamlet, so I'm sorry. It's unapologetic on that one for the most part. But yeah, no, Pretty Hate Machine by Mad Cave Studios. Great issue 1. Definitely worth picking up. Definitely worth continuing on with the series if it keeps on this track. Again, kind of keep going to it. If you're going to promise me violence, you better fucking deliver. And this absolutely did. We saw a lot, and that's great. Not to say if you're a gory person, you're going to love it completely. There's some restraint, I have to say. It's not like a crossed book or anything like that, but it's there. So yeah, I think this was probably one of our best new number ones we've had in a while. Price point wise wasn't even that bad either at $5, which is still a little bit pricey, but that's just the going rate for comics these days. So definitely check this out. Definitely continue on with it. Very well written. Art's fantastic. Very dark and brutal. It's what you want. It's what you need. Give it. So that being said, we just put out our Relaxed Fit episode talking about the issues we've been having with Marvel Comics as of late on the show. Next week, we're going to have a really, I don't want to say clumsy, but we decided to keep going with our X-Men motif of doing deep dives on characters. And next up on the list was Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who are more known to be Avengers these days. So we tried to stay focused on the X-Men side only, and we diverted a little bit. Kind of had to happen, but yeah, no, good times. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. Come back next week for another new number one. Stick around to the end of the week. If you've not watched The Relaxed Fit, check it out. If you have opinions on what's going on with Marvel Comics, by all means, chime in. They need to do something. That's not a great vibe right there right now, and I don't think there's a lot of trust in what they're putting out. So, yeah, comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Check out everything that we have out there, and thank you very much for coming along on this ride with me. We'll see you later. Bye.